Just take another look at that play. Miles McBride knew that Jericho Sims is a high flyer. He can go and get that pass against a bigger player, as we mentioned with the matchup with Diallo.
Finds Barrett. Get a shot up. This is for the win. Oh! It's good! Off the window! R.J. Barrett wins it for the Knicks! New York, stand up!
The WNBA is so important.
Okay, Tom. God bless. Good night.
This is nothing but that sports talk.
Yeah, Tykera Carter, you're killing it in the commentary for the G League. And I know you enjoyed RJ Barrett's buzzer beater as I welcome to this episode of Nothing But That Sports Talk. Shauntay, my special guest, the founder of Short and Sweet Entertainment, along with Tykera Carter, or in this case, Overtime Ty, who's now working in the social media department in Overtime. Before that, she had a job working for the NBA and the WNBA. Welcome back to the show, ladies.
Thank you. Thanks for having us and me.
Now, let's get a little bit before we get into all the current stuff going on in the sports world, let's just get a little bit into your career in the basketball industry up until this point. As not like before your current job with Overtime, you had a job working for the NBA as a social. So, what is that like for you?
I mean, it was definitely cool. We got a little feedback. Okay, I think it's cut off. Yeah, it was definitely cool. One of the best experiences that I've had, more so because, I got to work during two special seasons. Of course, the 24th season where a lot of changes came for the WNBA, but then especially the 25th season where I got to experience Candace Parker winning a championship in person, going to the playoffs where it was a battle, nobody was really getting ran through. And then being able to work with some legends during that time and just experience the league and its growth and how women's basketball is really, a place where all are accepted, I'll say. I met a lot of people in the media where it was so much fun because you see these people virtually tweeting or on Instagram and stuff like that. And then putting a face to the person when you get to finally meet, was like one of the best things ever because people who cover women's basketball, they're so smart, intelligent, knowledgeable of the game. And I think, the smaller outlets just need a lot more love. But overall, I think the experience was like one of those things where, I'll look back and I'll be like, dang, I can't believe I got to work for the league and like do a lot of fun stuff and activations and ultimately play a small part in the growth.
And speaking of the growth, why don't you talk about some of your favorite tasks that you did with working for the NBA in WNBA in transition towards in-person work?
I think WNBA All-Star was a lot of fun. Being able to interact and talk to the players and see like how down to earth they are. Like, they're just normal, cool women. And I think coming along with those tasks, we're coming up with like TikTok ideas for them to do. One of my favorite videos that I actually got to do was during we had the Vote Goat this year. And some legends came out to the playoffs game. It was Phoenix versus the Chicago Sky. I want to say it was game 2, if I'm not mistaken, in Phoenix. And so I put together like a recap video for that, where they got like these cool coats. And they were made by this woman in Chicago. Her name was, Lord, please, I think I'm saying her name correctly, Emma McKee. But she hand stitched the coats, the patches on them and stuff like that. And she had a team who helped her put them together. And the players were just so ecstatic about like their gifted coats, their duffel bags, and how, they were treated as legends. So I think that was fun. Meeting people like a Cynthia Cooper, and hanging out with her, talking to her, like she was so funny. And like Lisa Leslie, like she knew me as like the picture girl, like, oh, look, go grab her to take the picture because she's always going to take good pictures. And she'll be like, hey, can you take this video of me real quick? I want to get it for my TikTok. And it was like so funny. So people like that were definitely cool. And you see like how much they have impacted the game and how much people, truly do love them.
Do you ever get
starstruck when you are in a situation like this, or are you more like, I'm gonna compose myself, get myself ready, and then go after it? Or is there a moment where you're like, I can't believe I'm about to meet so and so?
I didn't get starstruck more so. It was more so stuck in a daze, like, dang, I actually, met Sue Bird and was like, talking to her, rapping to her or whatever. Or like, dang, like I grew up on Candace Parker, watching her. She was my favorite player when she was at Tennessee and stuff like that. She's one of the greatest, and it was like, to witness her winning a championship and stuff like that. But to get to talk to her like every day, like, she was super cool, always answered the questions that like I needed to get from her real quick and stuff like that. So I don't think it was a level of starstruck, but I was just ultimately like, dang, like, these are people that I really respect, especially for what they have done for the game. So I would say I was in awe, but I was always like composed, like when meeting them, and like, cool, like, you're a person, I'm a person, and we're both here to like do a job. So
when you're working in the NBA, like, was there any constructive criticism that you gained when doing the tasks that you were doing?
I would say, yeah, like sometimes everything wasn't always perfect. Sometimes we'll put out a tweet wrong or something, and it's like, oh, I got to put that down or whatever. You'll get feedback on things where it's like, let's shorten this on the website or whatever to make it go better. If we would write write-ups and have somebody else like review them, like that, they'll take things out. But I would say no criticism was like to the point where it'd be like, oh, I don't want to work here anymore. Like, these people are nuts or mean or anything like that. Like, no, it wasn't like that. Everything was to help you and to help the greater good, which was the WNBA. So yeah, I would say you get your good balance of good feedback, negative, and not negative in a sense where it's like somebody, they just hating on you. Like, it was like, okay, you needed to hear that.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because you've done so much amazing work. You're on air, you managed to take part in some overtime games, you've done some overtime videos, like you're really all over the place. But why don't you talk about your transition from working for the NBA to overtime, including those overtime videos you've done?
I would say the transition was different because it's a difference between working for a league as opposed to working for like a social media outlet that they're getting their content from these leagues and stuff like that. So the day-to-day definitely looks different as far as like getting up and curating content as opposed to knowing what you're going to post for today and having like an idea and a plan. I think it's the plan is get up and curate content, like you're on your phone, like searching for TikToks, searching on Instagram to see like, oh, did anything happen, like a popping video, keeping up to date with like everything that's going on in the sports world as a whole, as opposed to just one thing. So I would say that was a little different for me as far as like waking up and like one of the first things you're doing is instantly like checking your phone or whatever. It's not really like, oh, I need to get up and check emails. It's more so like, oh, I need to start looking on social media for what's popping for the day or whatever. And as far as the videos go, they sort of give you like those videos as far as like, I think you might be referring to like Hot Clock. Yeah. They'll send like a topic for like the day that you're talking about on Hot Clock. It's not like random or anything like where I'm coming up with what we're going to speak about.
And was there ever a moment where you actually had to put up a lot of practice towards putting up those Hot Clock videos?
No, because it's more so just like, it's so short. The Hot Clock videos are like no longer than 12 seconds. Like as soon as I'll watch the video that they send for today, you write like a short script and then you have like a reaction to it and that's it. And then you send it in and I don't do the editing for the video or anything. I just literally record my part and then send it off to whoever has to stitch it together and stuff like that.
Wow. And I can see you've done a lot of Hot Clock videos and it's been a thing. I mean, I've had conversations with guys like Overtime Cam about these Hot Clock videos, and it's a major thing. It's pretty much just a social media's version of 106 in Park. Park, like, not really. I mean, it's focused on sports, but yeah. They also talk about some entertainment stuff as well. The Includables talked about sport moments, and you guys even did some Black History Month, and Black History Month is next month. But yeah, Black History Month videos, they really tell a story with just 20 seconds.
Yeah, and that's the point of Hot Clock and what Overtime does. They're trying to allow our consumers and younger audience to be able to see things in short form, because we know that the attention spans aren't as high and stuff these days, and people want to see stuff with the quickness but still get the information across that they came to look at.
And when you got the job working for Overtime as a full-time employer, like, what was the first thing that you thought of?
The first thing, Rafique, I can't tell you that because I don't remember. It wasn't like a big celebration or anything. Just because before I was full time, I was doing Hot Clock and stuff, and I also had did a show with them. So it's like I was sort of like in the mix with Overtime the whole time. So it wasn't like I would say it wasn't like a huge celebration. I was more so a little bit worried about the transition from working with the WNBA, like I said, a league, to going to a company that's not league based.
Yeah, and Overtime did some viral videos, including my interview with Diana Taurasi, showcase the same after the Mercury lost Game 3. The same one in which Shauntay covered the watch party for Taylor Rooks.
Yeah.
While we on the air, I want to talk about that experience.
You want me to talk about it or who?
Shauntay.
Well, it was great. I think for me, when, especially like you said, working with athletes and then moving into, a social media brand, the biggest thing for people is to feel like others are human. Right. And so especially somebody like Taylor Rooks, who is now blowing up right now, her show is doing phenomenal. I listen to her interviews and it's top tier. You get into some things that people don't really like to speak about, but especially in a fun way. It was bittersweet watching it. I was rooting for the other team, but I love Candace Parker. But I had players on both sides. I was like, whoever takes the chip, I'm gonna celebrate it and be happy. But it was a great time to be around some really amazing fans who really just love the sport itself. And it was just an amazing time. One question that I have for you is I've always wanted to know, I think the only person who really does this is LeBron James, but he puts his playlist out there 100% of the time. And I always want to know what music they listen to in order to prepare themselves for the game. And so I throw it to you. Do you have a playlist that you get ready to before entering anything media related?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm an old soul, so I wouldn't necessarily say I have like a playlist going, but stuff that I like listening to. I like being calm before going into things. I don't like being like super hype or whatever. Like I like going into like an atmosphere like with a calm outlook, feeling, reach. So I listen to a lot of like Mint Condition or like New Edition, SWV. Trying to think who else I listen to, like Jodeci. I'm a huge Jodeci fan person or whatever. So like that's my vibe right there. And then if I'm not listening to stuff like that, like I'm like an R&B type of person. So I listen to like Lucky Day. I listen to Her a lot, Summer Walker, Snow Allegra. So I think it's more so for me like the vibes as opposed to like having like this specific spot on playlist. I'm also Brent Fayez, like I listen to him a lot. So something that I do, like I'll go into like my Apple Music and I'll click on like Ty stations, so it'll like give me like a mix of like everything that I want to hear, and that's kind of how I go about getting the vibes for the day or an event.
Wow,
that's dope.
Man, you literally come a long way doing all those tasks and having all these experiences, including being on a game show. But you mentioned the game show. Like, why don't you talk about like how it felt being on an actual social media game show for Overtime?
It was a lot of fun. Going into it, I didn't really know what to expect because that was like my first time doing something that involves sports betting, which is a landscape that's really continuing to grow and flourish. So in doing so, I prepared myself like learning. I'm like, okay, what's a parlay? Don't ask me now because I might not remember all of it. I don't necessarily bet, but thinking about stuff like that. And then of course, like for them to be able to diligently like plan the show out, have a cash prize and stuff like that, and seeing how a show is filmed because everything is some things might have happened in real time that was cool, but like they have to get a certain shot angle of it, so you have to redo it again, and it's not because you did anything wrong, it's like you need a different look of it. So seeing that a show is like not necessarily all real, but at the same time like the idea of it is. So I had a lot of fun doing it, learning about sports betting, of course networking and meeting people, and ultimately being with some people who turned out to be now my coworkers.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can only imagine being on a game show. There's so many sports game shows that you see on TV throughout the years, from Shaq Versus to Wipeout, so many shows. Name some of your favorite sports betting shows and game shows that you watch on TV, Tykera?
I used to watch like Wipeout and stuff like that. I'm not like a huge TV person, so to speak. Like I watch like series and like shows, but not like live. Yeah. I catch up on things like later on. So like every Sunday, like I know, all right, I gotta watch Power Book or whatever. And if I miss it on that Sunday, like I'll catch up on it. I watch Euphoria, but I haven't seen the new episode yet. So I'm more so like I have a day to chill or whatever. I don't have as much going on, or like I'll have TV on in the background while I'm working. The one thing that like I'll truly like tune into and like watch, and I'm trying to learn for it more so. Sorry for my text keep going off, but it's basketball. I definitely watch basketball like in real time, college basketball specifically. And when I do that, like I dissect the game. I like to hear about what the color commentators are saying because that's a role that I do participate in. I like to hear like how the play-by-play person like set them up for that answer. I like to kind of see like the speed of the game, see if I can recognize plays that are going on or developments, storylines and stuff like that throughout.
Yeah, and speaking of commentary, you had a chance to do some NBA G League games these past few months. Like at the beginning of your career, you were doing Howard women's basketball games. Even the one game where they had a chance to be in the tournament last year, but they couldn't necessarily get the victory. But that experience of covering an HBCU women's basketball team was just so phenomenal for you, I bet. Right now, you do a G League game for the Westchester Knicks and the Long Island Nets. Like, why don't you talk a little bit about how you managed to prepare to get on the air before you actually get on the air and do the commentary, be right in front of my TV screen?
I think the way that I prepare the most is, since the G League, I'll say it isn't only like people know what the G League is, but do people necessarily know where to go and watch it and learn about the players? Because the players at one point, were probably big time at the schools that they attended, but then you might call it a little overshadowed by the NBA, so to speak. So I'll see like when Westchester's playing, I'll go and like if they don't have a home game, because I only do the home games. And so if they're like on the road, I'll be like, okay, where is it streaming? How can I watch and stuff like that? Watch the players on YouTube, see some things that they did in college. Of course, in college, like you'll probably be a better player than what you are in the G League, because again, you're going to another level. If you don't get the opportunity to get drafted, then obviously the place you end up is overseas or the G League. And so I try to look at things that they're trying to develop or add to their game and how they have progressed like throughout the season. So a lot of like paying attention to stats, watching film, seeing how plays are ran, seeing like how a lot of different changes can happen like quickly. And I say like changes with the COVID protocols, you saw a lot of G League players get the opportunity to get called up to play in the NBA. And that can happen like this, like you have to have your bags packed, ready to go. And then as far as like a player who is on a two-way contract, you might not know to the day of the game that they are being assigned to the G League to come and play that evening. So yeah. And so if you had no idea, like you can't really prepare for them. So it's kind of like a whirlwind some days. Like that happened yesterday. Miles McBride, who plays for both the Westchester Knicks and the New York Knicks, as well as Jericho Sims, they got assigned to play in the game that day, and it got announced at 2 p.m. The game was at 7. So, as a color commentator or whoever working for the league, like you just have to be prepared for things to like change fast.
Wow, that's crazy. And while we're on the subject of the Westchester Knicks, like you follow the Westchester Knicks a little bit more more than you actually would have if you was going to those games as a fan. Like, what are your impressions about the way the Westchester Knicks come together, especially with Jericho Sims and Miles McBride? And do you think these guys have a future in the NBA?
Totally. They definitely look nice. I think they have a future in the NBA, whether it is with the Knicks franchise or elsewhere. Especially Miles McBride. Every time he's come to the G League, he's just dominated everybody. He had a career high 39 points last night. He scored 31 points in a game before, 25 points, 23. Like, he scored 20 points or more in every game that he's played in the G League. So he's been assigned to the G League 5 times. And then Jericho Sims, that was just his second game assigned to the Westchester Knicks. The first time around, he didn't play that well offensively. And I wouldn't say play well. He just didn't score much, but he pulled down 19 rebounds. He rebounds like he is a pro. Like, you can understand what the Knicks see in him as far as like his development and stuff. So I definitely think they have a future in the league via with the Knicks, or with not, somebody can definitely hone in on that potential and see that like, oh, we need to play these guys.
Do you think that the training is different between being in the league and then being in the G League? Like, you know, for me, I was thinking about all of the athletes that I see in college and their work ethic and what they do. And then I'm like, maybe on the professional level, you may not have exactly the training that they're looking for, but do you feel like both of the leagues train the same, or the competition is the same, I guess, as well?
So I'll say, as far as training goes, I think it depends on your market and your resources, because some people or some teams are in like the middle of nowhere where you might not have the proper training facilities, where you might not have access to your NBA affiliate team, where I know that the Westchester Knicks and the New York Knicks actually practice at the same facility. So they have that same crossing grounds with each other. And as far as like coaching and stuff goes and style, I think the G League tries to reflect that as far as what their the big club does in the NBA. So I think for some people in organizations, it's more so about your resources and what you have around you. And then a lot of it is based off of you and having to hire your own personal trainer for the summer and stuff like that. It might not be your staff who's able to work you out and stuff. I would say the competition level in the G League and the NBA is not the same, but I only say that because something that I sort of realized, everything is not like team basketball based, because people are trying to get off to get their opportunity to get an NBA call up. So sometimes, you know, things can get a little stagnant, sloppy, guys taking shots that normally wouldn't be their shot, but they're taking that shot because a coach up top has told them, well, hey, we need you to work on your 3-point shot. Let's see it. So they might take some shots that's not a little, a part of their bag quite yet, but they have to work on it in these games. So that's why I say I wouldn't necessarily say the competition is the same, because the G League is just that, a developmental league for everybody who's there.
Yeah, I know. And I actually watched the game with the Westchester Knicks yesterday, and those kids, they balled out without question. And you've seen it for yourself, Tykera, because all I can say is these kids, they do have a future. The same way RJ Barrett had a future.
I think RJ Barrett went to the Knicks at the right time, though. Like, they're in rebuild mode. He didn't necessarily need to have to experience the G League level. And also, they weren't as stacked and polished, I think, when he first came in. So I think he just entered that franchise at the right time. And also, he was a high draft pick. A lot of these G League guys, like, they either go undrafted, they were drafted late, and then gets assigned to like the G League, and a lot of that has to do with money part, not having enough spots on like the NBA roster. So they have to do that. And then I am so sorry that this keeps, can y'all hear that? My dinging?
Yeah, I can hear that.
I'm trying to cut it off. I told you with, maybe I didn't tell you, with overtime is so many group chats that they have you in and stuff. And I'm like logged in on my laptop. So my apologies about that.
Oh, good.
But anyway, where was I at?
Yeah, you were talking about the growth of RJ Barrett.
Oh, okay, yeah. So a lot of guys in the G League, yeah, they either get drafted late, they go undrafted. Some can pop up from overseas and never even attempted to play in the NBA yet, Or then, sometimes you'll get like those first rounders who just necessarily aren't panning out in the NBA. And so they assign you to the G League.
And yet you had to witness RJ Barrett hit a buzzer beater off the Boston Celtics in a dramatic cover-high victory on national television. That must have been incredible for you. I mean, I went to a lot of Knicks games when I was younger, up until, of course, 2014, which is the most recent Knicks game that I went to, or at least I remember going to. So I can tell, like you got a taste of what it's like to attend a basketball game at Madison Square Garden.
Well, yeah, that wasn't my first Knicks game. As far as
I know it wasn't your first, but you obviously attended a couple other Knicks games before that. Like, what were your favorites?
My favorites? I think I saw them play against the Bucks in like 2018 or something like that. The Knicks versus the Bucks. Mm-hmm. I think I've been to like a few other games there at Madison Square Garden. I can't remember like all of them that I've been to, but yeah, I don't think I necessarily have a favorite, but more so I just enjoy good basketball.
Yeah.
Same. I think the last game that I've been to at the Knicks Madison Square was when Melo was on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you had a good time. Yeah, that's cool. That's definitely
and I really wanted to go just to obviously see Melo and see how he blends in with the team and stuff. Obviously, he's not there anymore. Right. But I wanted to see if he was going to bring that New York toughness that everybody was talking about, and wanted to see that in full action. But I think I haven't been to a lot of Knicks games, but definitely been to so many Brooklyn Nets games that I can't even count on my hand.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't believe I've been to a Nets game, if I'm not mistaken.
Ever?
I don't think so. No. I mean, I just moved out here, so this wouldn't have been like my home base team. I'm from Virginia, so our team is obviously the Wizards, so I don't think I've seen the Nets yet in person.
Yeah, well, don't worry. You have all season to make that happen, especially when the G League is finally over. And well, I bet you're talking to a guy that been to the first Nets game in Brooklyn, or like the stadium opener in Brooklyn in 2012-13 season. And that was the first ever season the Nets played in Brooklyn. And I went to a couple other games after that. And the most recent one I went to was Game 5 against between the Nets and Celtics.
Oh, that's a good one.
That was a good one. It may not be memorable, but it's the one that fished off the Celtics on my 30th birthday, may I add you. And of course, you've gone to a lot of other basketball games, whether it's a fan or media talent, including covering the Commissioners Cup. You covered the All-Star game. You covered the finals, the playoff run with the Connecticut Sun. You covered so much, and I admire you for that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I think it's definitely been a journey. I think I've only tipped the surface of the things that I want to do and that I'm looking forward to doing. So it's really just a blessing and a testament to like how I've worked hard. And I think for me, like it's only the beginning. I want to do so much more. But also patience, trusting in God and his timing, and continuing to work at it.
Yeah, and if you do that,
is this something that you saw yourself in the position when you were younger? Like, oh, I always have wanted to do this, or something that you transitioned into as you knew that you would be a good fit for this career?
I transitioned into it because I played D1 basketball at Sacred Heart, which is in Fairfield, Connecticut. So
yes. I used to want to go to Sacred Heart.
Did you? Where'd you end up going to school?
I went to Wheaton College in Massachusetts.
Okay, cool. I'm familiar. I am. So I've been up to Mass quite a few times and know like a lot of people from there, because a lot of people from Massachusetts would go to Sacred Heart. So yeah, yep. I'm very familiar. But so I was just more so a person who knew like, okay, basketball career is ending. I had got my master's degree. I finished school in like 4 years, including my master's degree. And so I was just like, it's time to figure out like what's next. In school, I definitely knew like what I wanted to do and had an idea of it and like work at it and stuff, but I wasn't good at it. Like, when you're younger, like you having this idea, like you're popping or you're doing things right or whatever. And if I were to like go back and look at like look at those old tapes, I'll be like, oh no, but that's all a part of the process. Even sometimes like when I'll look at something, maybe even still from like a year ago and be like, okay, you've even grown from then. So I think it's just continuing to grow, continuing to put stuff down on paper, building your resume, whether that be your digital resume, which I call social media, and people like know a little bit more about you, or, on paper, and, rock out like that.
Yeah, and I kind of witnessed that even back in 2019 when I interviewed the first time. I mean, I remember we had those discussions during the FaceTime interviews. You talked about like what's it like being a freelance journalist and having a little job on the side just to make sure that you're striving for success while working on your craft. Right? I mean, you covered the 2019 files for the Round Ball report, and you made connections with people like Monica McNutt, Camille, Christina Williams, who just like you was a creator of color. But we'll get to that later on in the conversation. It's just, you know what? Let's just get to creator colors. Like, what's that experience like for you being able to travel all the way to Atlanta and reunited with Christina and Camille as far as connected with other creator of colors?
Well, that was actually my first time meeting Christina in person. So I didn't meet her at the finals in 19. And I think I had seen her at like All-Star and stuff like that, but we didn't speak. So, and when I say we didn't speak, like we just didn't have in-depth conversation, but like when I saw her, I called her name, said hello, but like obviously we're both like doing things. So actually getting to hang out with her and Camille like in Atlanta was an awesome opportunity. Obviously being recognized as a creator of color for its inaugural cohort was like a big deal, because this is the first time around doing something, and anytime you can say like you're something a part of being the first, you set like the standard and like the ground for what's to come for the others who are able to do it. So I think that was a huge accomplishment for myself to be recognized, and other people. I didn't get this cohort accomplishment based off of who I knew. Like the people when I applied, they didn't know who I was. They had to go through all those applications and see that like I was a fit. I believe it was only like 30 members or less. So it's like, out of all those people who apply, like, your resume stood out. What you have done has stood out. So that was just a cool experience across the board.
And when you look back at it, next top 30 for 30 under 30, if you want to go for that is.
Mm-hmm. I mean, for sure. I think more so, my life isn't based off of what people feel as though I have accomplished on paper or for the flex. 30 under 30 is a great thing. There's other, variations of that with an age, but I think I apply for things when I feel as though I deserve it. And it's not more so based off of if somebody else does. So if I feel like, I'm doing decent work, but I'm not really doing much to show for it, it's not my time to apply for it. But when I feel like I definitely have been putting like my best foot forward, content is rolling, I've accomplished things that I'm super proud of that other people have seen. But it starts with me first and how I feel about it, then I'll go for it. But it's not necessarily like something that I need to check the box off on. Because if I don't get it, what do I feel like I'm less than? No, I still feel proud of like the work and stuff that I did. So I think, when you go for stuff like that, you always keep an open mind that just because you weren't selected, it doesn't mean that what you have done or accomplished wasn't that. And I think some people, they feel down on themselves like, dang, I didn't get 30 for 30. Like I'm not doing good. Not like, no, you're fine. So if I do apply for it, like I would have to go into it with like a ground basis of like, okay, this is what I did this year, just, and really feel proud of the things that I've done, not doing stuff just because everybody else is doing it or whatever.
Yeah, that's really dope. I love how you were saying the things that you are proud of. Can you just speak about, some of the accomplishments that you have come across? Or I'm going to say probably your proudest moment that you can say that you have to date.
So I would say things that I'm just proud of my journey in general. I started when I first graduated from college in 18, like I could not land a full-time job in sports, which is why I was a freelancer and stuff like that. So I was working part-time at DSW. And then like anytime I had some free time, I would go freelance, do whatever, connect, try to email people. And then When I left DSW, I was working part-time as a receptionist at a Cadillac car dealership, Cadillac / like Chevrolet. So I was doing that. I was coaching basketball. Like I was just trying to do so many things. So what I would say I'm most proud of to date is how I've leveraged all those things that I've done in my past to be able to create and build off of what I'm doing in my future. Like I'm not stagnant. I think moving out was like a huge step, because in the process of when I was doing all that, my parents were really big on like, just stay home and stack your money. Like they didn't make me pay rent because they knew how passionate I was towards my goals and like the things that I was doing. And so I can like look back at where I was this time last year, where yes, I was still working for the league, but like I was at home doing so. And that was mainly because of COVID. But to now, like I'm like, okay, you're really like becoming like a woman. You're taking on different responsibilities. So I would say my work is a reason why I am here, and I had to move to New Jersey and stuff like that. And so I would say I am most proud of the transition. Like, I'm like, okay, not late on bills. Like, you know, you picked up some more side gigs to do in the midst of like working for overtime. And so I think the whole adulthood process for me might have been a little slower than others, and that's okay. But I think I'm most proud of like where I am now in that spot.
Yeah, mine's just kind of slower than yours as well. I mean, I can kind of relate to you, or at least you before the NBA and overtime, Tom, because I mean, I couldn't really get a job to save my life, but yet I found my way towards using this to cover the WNBA for 2 seasons, as well as the Tokyo Olympics, mixed interviewing the NBA pros like Kevin Durant, Evan Booker, and tweets from the Milwaukee Bucks, then Bam Adebayo with Damian Lillard. I found my way to interview for that. It's all because of the consistent work in freelance journalism, whether it's virtual or in person.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and that's really just how it starts. You keep working, you keep striving towards it. If you feel like you're growing, your work will get recognized. Yeah,
and my work will get recognized even more, because after this episode, as well as future episodes, will get published on a website I'm creating for Sports Talk, where I'm not just going to be doing video interviews, but I'm going to be writing articles as well. I already got some articles waiting to launch, but yeah, I can't wait to show it off, including this episode, by the way.
Yeah, that's a huge accomplishment. It's like, you know, taking steps towards the things. I am so sorry. Like, I'm so irritated by the beeping, because like these are like random group chats like popping up. I'm so sorry. But definitely like keep doing what you're doing and continue to move forward.
Yeah, and if I keep it up, I might be doing those overtime hot clock videos one day, if it's still going on, that is.
I think so. They've transitioned a lot, like as far as like they were like, okay, IGTV doesn't get a lot of views now, how do we transition hot clock? Now hot clock is a carousel of videos. So I think hot clock is one of their babies and something they're trying to keep alive. So
yeah,
which would be dope. I think a lot about that we talked about is rebranding, and I feel like it will stay and be here for longevity. Something that I saw from Instagram is like logo changes, especially in the league, both the WNBA and the NBA. And I was looking at it, and I didn't realize, like, wow, some teams started from this year, they got this going on, this year, the next, and I'm like, man, it's really all about rebranding and making sure that you are part of the wave and knowing what's next and what's the hottest trend and kind of what gravitates us. And I also think it's about not being afraid to take risks, because in order to rebrand and be successful, you got to be willing to always and constantly be putting things out. If people like it, they like it. If they don't, you're like, hey, I got one view. I'm going to keep going tomorrow, and I'm going to keep pushing
that's
forward.
What it's all about. That's what it's all about. And the crazy thing is, even how the views and stuff go like that, like, you don't know that some people are watching you and like proud of your work. And if you stop, like when I originally had like started a podcast, people were like, why you don't put your podcast out anymore? I was like, I mean, I got busy, other things started going on. Like it wasn't at the forefront of like my passions, but like people recognize those things, and you don't even know that you're impacting someone.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, Shauntay, while we're on the subject, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about why you started Short and Sweet Entertainment, if we haven't talked about that, or at the very least an updated version of that discussion, because not only, I mean, we already talked about the watch party you covered, and you also covered that Skylar Diggins-Smith event not too long ago, as well as many other entertainment shows, including the Ja Rule concert you went to just recently.
Yeah, well, Short and Sweet Ent, it is really new. I started it in February, so I'm almost up until my 1 year mark, but it's just my own blog, my own platform. And, for me, I think I cover 3 things. So my lifestyle, and then 2, music that I love and support, and then 3, Black owned businesses. And one thing that I really want to focus on is creating a platform where other people feel like their voice can be heard in a positive light. And so we know with working with people in the industry versus if that's music or entertainment or, in the NBA, WNBA, whatever industry you're in, some people may feel like, oh, this blog spent the story, or this I didn't mean to say that, or I was trying to do this, or they only focus on all the negative energy that, the blogs come, TMZ, everything they talk about. And I really just wanted to create that platform for anybody who feels like they want to tell their story and in a positive manner and kind of have their own voice. It's a learning process every single day, especially writing and, trying to create content and just being out there and doing things that I love the most is definitely important for me. But one thing I'm really focusing on is, trying to find my identity. And like what you said is like, it doesn't, you don't know who you are impacting on the other side. And so, even through the trials and tribulations, even today, it's like, oh man, I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to do that. I don't want to do this. And it's like, I don't know what story is going to pop and what's not, but I get that one email, get that one text that's like, oh, I absolutely love that. Or I really connected with that tonight. Ralph, I hope you come, but that This Is Us. I'm a series watcher as well. I binge watched so much. And one of the shows that I watch is This Is Us, and they're in their last and final season. And, I think creating an atmosphere or different blog, media personality, Gia Peppers and Jameer Pond host Twitter Spaces, their recap of TV, basically. And so I'll be doing that later because I feel like, having different platforms where people can express how they feel is just really important, especially when you feel like some people are on this level and you can't really reach them. But then when you break it down and you're like, wow, they really are just like us. It's really important for me to tell the stories that people feel like they can't tell.
That's awesome. I definitely want to, be able to check some of that stuff out because I'm into entertainment and stuff and keeping up to date on the latest.
Insecure.
All that. Yes, I'm a huge Insecure fan. Very sad that it's over, but yeah, that's my stuff right there.
Yeah.
I love it. I think also with, covering concerts as well, I absolutely love it. I'm also an educator. I teach. I'm an elementary school teacher. And so sometimes my hours are like, oh, that's that real 7 to 4 situation. And then the concert might start at 8 and it goes until, I don't know what time sometimes I get home.
Yeah.
Or the sometimes the interview comes at the end of the concert. And I'm like, oh man, I have to wait until the end. And now it's like 1, 2 o'clock, so I'm getting home. But especially entertainment, there's so much stuff that goes on with these artists that some that are really exciting and then some that aren't. But I feel like, especially going to the Ja Rule concert, we have to give those people their flowers, the legends, the veterans that have been in this game, entertainment-wise, and in the WNBA. You said you met some legends, and those are the people that I remember growing up watching. Or I also grew up in Connecticut, and I remember, watching UConn and seeing them, and then having the chance to meet some of those players. It's like those flowers definitely need to be given to these people who absolutely deserve it.
Yeah, so the nice part about it is as you continue connected with those WNBA players and coaches. I mean, I interviewed a couple of players. They get more familiar with you. They actually say your name in the middle of responding to your question. That's just so nice. It's so nice that even assistant coach like Kurt Miller from the Connecticut Sun, Hawkins, who used to coach in New York Liberty, but you don't coach it no more. Right now, Cindy Brondali is coaching at New York Liberty. We will get to some WNBA talk later in the conversation, but there's just so much connections you're making when you're interacting with these players. And I've talked to Michaela Onyebuede when I went to cover the Liberty and Seattle Storm game in last summer, and a couple months before that, I went to my first WNBA game as a fan, where the Knicks, unfortunately, the Liberty had late second loss to the Atlanta Dream like 2 weeks after Sabrina Ionescu's crazy shot to open up the season, the 25th anniversary season to be exact. I ran into Monica. I ran into the little girl, Pepper Pursley. I ran into Ariel Chalmers. And yeah, I got a little taste of the WNBA feel when I went to WNBA games. Thanks to Miss WNBA is so important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Do you remember your first WNBA game you went to? Starting with you, Tykera.
No. I first went like to the Mystics when I was like way like younger, but I don't remember like the game. I don't remember who they played or anything like that.
It's fine. I get that same feeling when I went to my first Yankee game as a baby. I don't really remember.
Yeah, like when you've been gone for so long now, the first one, no, I have no idea.
Yeah,
I don't remember my first WNBA game or NBA game for be exact, but I do remember a few years ago I was a season ticket holder for the Liberty.
Oh, that's
and I remember that season only because it was the first time one that was that close to the court, and two, it was like they were animals, beasts. Like I was just like, they need so much more support, so much more love, so much more attention to be drawn to these athletes. And that's when I did get a chance to see both Skylar Diggins and Candace Parker play. And I was just like in awe of the talent that we see, you know, it's so different from seeing it on TV. And then when you're in person, it was like, and I'm a fanatic. I scream, I shout, I'm all over the place. Like anybody who comes to the game with me, they know it's going to be a good time because I'm yelling at the ref. I'm yelling at the coaches, everybody. It's like, I want everybody to play, but I remember that season because it was just so monumental for me to see them up close in person and having that kind of like, you know, I'm like, oh my God, they're so much taller, or like they're so much fitter. I'm like, wow, this is absolutely amazing.
Right.
Let's be honest, they should have been playing at the Barclays Center ever since 2018. Not the Westchester court. They play Westchester County Court. I mean, I'm on the Spotify Greenwood, Christina and her peoples. They hate traveling up there. I mean,
I agree, but it was only for one season. They figured it out. They're under new ownership now, and you know that was that. It was unfortunate that they did have to play there, but imagine if it was longer. So I'm happy that they got to figure it out and move on.
Yeah, because you got people like Ari and Christina fighting, like being WNBA influencers and fighting for the rights of the women's basketball in order to get the same rights as the men's side. I mean, why should they have to play in those courts? I mean, why should the WNBA games have to play in a college basketball court when a concert is taken over that same day, like how would the Liberty were played to the Phoenix Mercury at Grand Canyon University? I mean, if you're at Grand Canyon University, then and of course you're going to want to go to that game because it's a once in a lifetime experience. But for people that prefer seeing it in the actual arena, or in this case, their home arena, why should they have to suffer through that?
No, I mean, there's no good reason for it. And, you know, it is unfortunate. So hopefully those are the things that people, you know, continue to have an eye out for, be mindful of, and it, you know, it changes. Yeah.
But to transition a little bit quick, what do you think about the Liberty adding Sandy Bardali as their head coach, as well as the historic Becky Hammon acquisition being the head coach that we all been waiting for? Or in this case, the women's sports people have all been waiting for. Becky Hammon coached a WNBA team in Las Vegas Aces, where she finished off her career back when they were the San Antonio Superstars. But what are your impressions on that?
Sandy Brondello is a great coach, and I think she'll fit in right with the Liberty. I think they have a good personnel. They actually had a pretty decent season, was able to sneak into that 8th spot in the playoffs. So I think the New York Liberty are in good hands with an experienced coach like Sandy Brondello, who has also coached, the Australian team, the Opals and stuff like that. So she's dealt with plenty of players. As far as Becky Hammon goes, I think this is an awesome opportunity to prove what she was basically saying. Her only feedback she was really getting when she was going for these NBA head coaching jobs was she didn't have NBA coaching head coach experience, and she didn't have it on any levels. So I think, she took the necessary steps for her career to continue to elevate it. And I'll be excited what she can do with the players that are on that roster, such as Kelsey Plum, Asia Wilson, and the other pieces that they have, like a Chelsea Gray. I'm blanking on one of their names.
Kim Page, if she comes back. because she is a free agent.
I didn't want to mention her because I didn't know like the status of Liz and what she has going on or whatever. If she plays the season, sit out. It's a lot of different rumors going on about her. But I was thinking about Jackie Young.
Jackie Young, I have a lot of room for improvements in her game. I mean, she's a decent shooter, or she's capable of finding open passes to open shooters. So it's like
I think she already did improve on her game this year. I think she's going to continue to improve, but she made a big leap from last year to this season. She had breakout games where she had career highs. Jackie Young has proved now that she is capable of playing on a team where she knows her role, but also knowing that she can have those breakout games. So I think consistency is just the next step for her as far as that goes. But other than that, I think she has made far more improvements than what we've seen out of her last year. Because in previous years, I was just like, what's going on? But she's definitely gotten better already. And I think, in knowing that and how much she has improved this year, she'll continue to step up her game.
Yeah, and you can only go up from here. And with the WNBA free agency coming up, like, what are your expectations towards the WNBA free agency?
I think it's going to be a lot of movement, and I think it's going to be a lot of movement because first it started with coaches going into different places and roles, and people being replaced, letting go of. But overall, I think it's going to be fun. I don't think I have any like crazy predictions of like who goes where. I think the only person who could potentially leave is like Jewel Lloyd, and I don't know though. I think because she's like a Illinois, Chicago native or whatever. Perhaps she tried to get on the winning team and go there. But I also don't know because if you keep Ka and they already re-signed Diamond and Lexi Brown, where does I don't know. And they made these decisions earlier on, so maybe the future doesn't lie there for Jewel. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing guaranteed is the fact that Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird, they're both coming back for another year, even though you're not going to see them at the Olympics ever again. But at the very least, they're going to be coming back next season. But it all comes down to how far the body can go when they jump on the court. That's pretty much all it boils down to. I mean, you can only play in the WNBA for so long. Heck, they played in the WNBA for so long. I remember speaking.
Look at LeBron James. He takes care of his body. He doesn't look like he's slowing down. He's still going. I think health and the way that you can recover and stuff is far more advanced than it was in later years. And that's why women are going to be able to play much longer. So if they feel like their bodies are fine, which, to me, they haven't necessarily showed signs of slowing down, but I think their game has changed in a way where they're taking on Sue Bird, especially she's not as much of a threat scoring now, but she is always going to be that sound decision maker, the person who you want on the floor to run a squad as far as making decisions, like the extension of a coach on the floor. And then when you go with a player like Diana Taurasi, like on any given night, I believe she can still go off. Like, yes, has she had her back injuries, knee injuries and all that stuff. But again, she has an off season now to fully recover. She doesn't have to think about an Olympic year. It's only focused on what is next up. I think she can play, as far as, like you said, her body will take her, but I think it's more so going to be like a mental thing for her where she feels as though she can't go anymore. But I feel like, if they really wanted to, they could probably play realistically another 3 years. I think the buzz for them to be out is more from media people and stuff like that. It's not because of them or, being incapable.
Yeah, there's just so much to witness, and I can't wait to see how the WNBA free agency plays out within the next month or two. Now, why don't we transition gears a little bit as well? We had some interesting storylines going on the first half of the NBA season. You got the Chicago Bulls being the #1 seed. Ja Morant turned the Memphis Grizzlies into a top 4 team in the Western Conference. Stephen Curry, Warriors is back. Klay Thompson's back. It's just so much storylines to break down, but I'm going to ask you this one question, what storyline involving the top 3 players for the 2019 NBA draft is more intriguing? Zion Williamson's injury woes, Ja Morant leading Memphis to the 4th seed in the Western Conference, or RJ Barrett's buzzer beater that you witnessed in person last week?
Ja Morant, hands down. I mean, he's transforming, the Grizzlies his play, like he's a freak athletic player. So I mean, RJ Barrett, but a buzzer beater is just that. It's going to buzz for a few days and then you move on to the next game. But what he's doing right now, Memphis is on a 10-game winning streak. That impact goes a long way.
Yeah. And while we're on the subject of the Memphis Grizzlies, do you see them surprising teams? If the playoffs started right now, do you see them win the NBA championship this year?
No, I don't see them winning a championship, but surprising people for sure. I mean, I think that since Ja has gotten there and they have a healthy squad, they've been on the up and up.
That is also true. But
yeah, I agree with you on that. The going as far as winning a champion, you know how I feel.
That's right.
Ooh, I don't know about that, but having some really surprising, plays, situations, games, of course, I feel like that's up in the air with any team in the league. You never know what type of season you're going to have, even if you try to roll it out the best that you could possibly make it as. But, I think they'll be good for what they, will be good for.
Yeah, for sure.
That's sort of true. And another topic I want to touch on is the way the Brooklyn Nets started off. I mean, at one point they were number one, but when they were hit hard with the Omicron variant, they had to take a week off because of that. And when they came back, they had their first losing streak of 3 games in a row and a 5-game losing streak at home. And right now they're sitting at number 2 in the Eastern Conference. Do you still believe that the Brooklyn Nets can make it to the finals and win a championship if it's against a team not named Los Angeles Lakers? Because I know you're a Laker fan.
I mean, if we're being honest right now, the way the Lakers are playing, they could beat the Lakers. Like, although I'm a Los Angeles Lakers fan, I'm also a realist. And if you're not playing your best basketball and another team is, well, you're going to get beat. Like, it's as simple as that. You're not showing up. That's what hoop is all about. But I definitely think they're capable. I think they'll go as far as, injuries go and allow them, just like most teams. They have the pieces. You have one of the greatest players in the world, Kevin Durant, on your squad. I think James Harden has definitely, came into his role and still obviously a great scorer and person to have on your squad, experienced. And then also with Kyrie, you have 2 people on your team who have experience with winning championships right there, and they're gelling. There's no beef problems. Like, yes, Kyrie, he's, a different person in himself, and that's fine. I'm okay with like his decisions and stuff like that, what he felt was best for his body and stuff like that. I think sometimes you have to go about things that way for you and your family, but at the same time, they're definitely more than capable of winning a championship when healthy and not facing COVID. And Kevin Durant's playing his best basketball. He's hard to stop.
Yeah, Kevin Durant is like literally phenomenal, making himself an MVP candidate once again. I mean, he came a long way ever since he missed an entire season due to an injury. He had 2 months without playing last year, and if he had just taken a couple steps back, he would have had a championship ring instead of Milwaukee Bucks, or at the very least a conference finals appearance. But while we're on the subject of the Brooklyn Nets, like which season do you think is worse for them, the 2020 version or the 2021 version?
What do you mean?
Like, which Nets season do you think, which playoff ending for the Brooklyn Nets was worse? The 2020 bubble season or the 2021 season where they lost to the Milwaukee Bucks?
I think the bubble. I think when they lost to the Bucks, like, think about how far they had gone and Kyrie was hurt. Like, they were capable of doing that, and they lost off of, it was like a last minute shot, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
The ball was in your best player's hand. He missed. Like, it happens. So I think that was worse, but also you think about like the magnitude. I think if Kyrie was on the floor, they would have won hands down. But
that is also true. And while we're on the subject of the Lakers, I mean, ever since the last time we were on the show, LeBron James did manage to get his 4th NBA championship, and then next year he suffered his first first round loss in the playoffs. Like, what do you mind seeing the way the Lakers regress since the last time you were on the show?
I mean, it's a lot of movement. Each year the team looks different, and sometimes it's for better or for worse. you have this idea in your head of what the perfect team is going to be to get you to a championship. And then, it turns out to be not that. Anthony Davis can't stay healthy to save his life. So, and he's not even playing his best basketball when he is healthy. So I think it's not more so about the pieces that they have this year. They're just not gelling. They don't have a type of, and their offense, I think, is stagnant at times. So LeBron, he's probably doing a lot more work than he thinks, he thought that he would have to do with the people that he brought in. So I think it's, yeah, and then you have people leaving and coming back, like Dwight, Rondo, like it's sort of all over the place with the organization. I think the pieces that they have. So I felt like they were better in the bubble because of how that team was put together and molded and came together. And Anthony Davis was healthy. LeBron was at his best. I would definitely say Rondo played a huge role in that championship, and being like a great guard for them off the bench. And people don't want to admit it, but like Danny Green, he has his ups and his downs, but like he delivered, more times than not when needed be. Sometimes you don't know which Danny Green you were going to get, but he was for sure a solid role player. KCP, he also played some of his better basketball with the Lakers. So I think that team was just molded differently, and all that they did to get Westbrook and sending all those pieces away, the Wizards sort of won that.
Yeah, that's also true. And it's just a lot.
For me, my biggest upset was, Chris Paul's my favorite player. Mm-hmm. And so I just really want him to get a ring. And, but I do agree with what you said earlier in this interview about achievements and accomplishments and going after them and not, putting yourself in a position to feel any type of way. I feel like last season was his greatest chance at getting a ring. And I was heartbroken still.
I was heartbroken for him too.
So heartbroken for him, but I still do feel like, as an athlete, especially in the NBA, you could say your biggest accomplishment is getting the ring. But for a player like Chris Paul, I feel like he has achieved so much that so many players dream about becoming a player like him. So I feel like with his accomplishments, he's good, but I still would like for him to get a ring. He's not slowing down. A lot of people are like, oh, he may be slowing down. No, he is not slowing down. But, I was heartbroken. And I still wish that this season is going to turn around and they still have another chance.
Yeah.
Yep, that's true. I don't know how great your knowledge is of football, but we got the NFL Super Wild Card Weekend coming up. And while you're into basketball, have you ever thought about giving football a chance as a fan?
I've sideline reported football games at Sacred Heart, so it's not that I'm not a fan. Like I'm more so keep up with the news as opposed to sitting down and watching a football game. And like I've gone to NFL games, but I'm not just like in it that deep, I would say.
Fair enough. I mean, just go with what you're passionate about, because it's a lot of focus on basketball that you're putting into it, and it's nice that you actually taking a chance at covering other sports when you went back to your alma mater. And well, of course, when you went there as a student, you probably done some work for sports media when you went there.
Because I was playing on the basketball team, my program was the one who was putting the games on and stuff like that. So I would help out like during football season when I could, when I didn't have practice and stuff like that. But my teachers and professors, like they knew what was going on. They loved me so much. And most of those professors were with me in undergrad as well. So it's not as though like they weren't aware like, oh, she might miss like this module because they'll be traveling or whatever. So I definitely helped out like when I could, but I wasn't always like a part of like the most events that I wanted to do and stuff. And that was just because, at that time, basketball took priority.
Yeah, that's also true. Well, that'll conclude this episode of Nothing But That Sports Talk. Thank you for stopping by, Tykera Carter. It's always good for you to come on the show, and I hope this isn't the last appearance we ever see for you, as I know you got a lot going on. You commentated the G League, overtime, so much work, and I can't wait to see what you do later on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was great talking to you again, Rafique. It was also great meeting you, Shauntay, and meeting and just learning about your background and stuff like that. You seem super dope, and definitely would love to continue to stay connected.
Exactly.
Yes.
Look out for my Nothing But That Sports Talk website when I launch it within a couple weeks or so. And also check out Short and Sweet Entertainment to get all the latest news from music, entertainment, and lifestyle, and as well as stories of Black-owned businesses. Shauntay's been destroying it, literally.
Thank you.
And to all the ballers out there, get your head in the game.